Alex Cushion from MLB.com, and again, this, David Wright, Carlos Beltran, back-to-back Mets, then Jason Bay, Curtis Granson, and then again in round 5, Joey Votto. Maybe Alex Cushion is got some information that I'm not aware of, but Joey Votto to me doesn't seem, especially first base, going ahead of a lot of great first basemen. To me, I'm not sure if in round 5 that's the type of guy I kind of go with.
I like Joey Votto, and I like the park he plays in, but like you said, in round 5, that is a bit of a reach to me. But everybody likes him. If Votto can hit, I think he'd be great as a corner infielder. Though if you pick him in round 5, you're picking this guy to be a cornerstone of your offense. You're guaranteeing he's going to hit you 33 home runs, knocking 110 RBIs. That's a lot on a guy on a bad team in his second year of Major League Baseball.
I mean, he follows it up, though, to round 8, we're going with Derek Lee. To me, I'd rather have Derek Lee number 1 over Joey Votto. But,
you know what? It's actually a good flip-flop, to tell you the truth. If you picked Lee in the 5th round and Votto in the 8th round, it's probably a good pick. And you know what? He did back it up. So he looked for some risk-reward there, probably with Votto, and then said, Lee's falling to me right now. Let's buy a little insurance. Everybody loves insurance.
Yeah, no doubt. I do. I like it. Hey, round 14, Zach Greinke. This is a guy, look at Zach Greinke's numbers, and, a lot of people take a look at, he plays for, he pitches for Kansas City. This kid has been fantastic. That's why we saw his name in a lot of trade rumors with teams trying to really steal him from the Kansas City Royals.
Yeah, well, definitely, and I think that will continue all the way up to July 31st. I think the Royals realize that he will not come back to them when his arbitration process is finished, so they're looking to try to move him. And I'm finding that guy fall major in drafts. We got guys going before him with 4 ERAs. Greinke is going to be a consistent pitcher. He's only going to get better with the Royals. You're going to get mid-3s ERA, and you can get up about 150 strikeouts from Greinke, and that's great. And I'll tell you who the other guy is that doesn't even get drafted on that team is Gil Mesh, who had 183 strikeouts last year. No one knows.
Yeah, well, let's talk about Zach Greinke here for a second, because, here's a guy who reached 200 innings for the first time in his career, Tony. So my first question would be, are you concerned with the fact that he goes from 122 innings to 202 innings from 2007, 2008, what's it going to be 2009, but 13 wins, 10 losses. The numbers that stand out to me, though, is the 183 strikeouts and only 56 walks. To me, that's a great number. That's a 3-to-1 strike-to-walkout ratio, and that's something from a starter that's kind of unheard of.
You're definitely right, but that's what his thing is with ball control in that organization. They always did it. They say he can throw 95, 96, but they don't want him to because they want him throwing strikes. The jump in innings has to be conserved, but the thing is, I've never seen anything documented where, is it 30 innings, is it 40 innings, is it 50 innings? I talked to Corey Schwartz one time from MLB.com, and he said it's a red flag anytime a pitcher goes up 30 innings, but I have not seen any documentation to prove that. I think, though, when you're talking the number of innings Greinke had there, you have to worry about it, but more of a control pitcher there. So I'm not gonna let it bother me, but it's right there in the back of your mind.
Okay, so here's some other ones. Like, and again, I'm not trying to harp on him, but when I take a look at this young kid, again, I see a lot of potential, especially from a fantasy standpoint. So this kid starts up strong, goes 3-0 in April, Tony, and then in the months of May and June goes 2-2. But in the summer months of July and August, goes 2-5 over that time period, and really just gets crushed in that amount of time. So, and ends September at 4-1. So it seems to start off well, seems to end well, but it seems like the middle has some issues.
Yeah, I hate to be a psychologist, but this guy did leave the Royals for some time with some bouts with depression 2 years ago. So you wonder what the mental psyche is of this young pitcher. He did put it together, and I remember having him on my team and going through those horrible games, and I'm saying, man, do I put this guy on my bench? And then he came back and finished so strong. I think it's just one of those growing pains of a young pitcher. He's been around Kansas City forever, so sometimes we forget how young of a pitcher he is.
Now, later in the draft, he goes in round 21, and Alex Cushion from MLB.com goes with Ricky Weeks. Now, just a year ago, Tony, this was supposedly one of the up-and-coming second basemen, had the wrist injury. When we take a look at some of his numbers from last year, just presumably everything down. Batting average down to 234, on base percentage down to 342, slugging percentage down to 398. You know, when you take a look at a guy like this, a kid like this, you know, how frustrating are you as a fantasy owner when there's supposed to be all this upside, yet, you know, the Milwaukee Brewers fell out of faith with him and had to make a trade at the trade deadline to bring another second baseman in. Where do you go with this guy? Is this a good position? To me, this seems like a great, when you have any Ricky, you have nothing but reward for Ricky Weeks in round 21.
The thing is, I think I have to avoid him. You know, you say round 21. If you could take him and you have a bench deep enough, maybe that's the kind of guy you want on your bench. But here's the thing, 2 years in a row, this guy's hit 237. He hasn't get to 500 at-bats. They went out and got a second baseman in the stretch run of a playoff series. I'm thinking that his leash is not long in Milwaukee if he struggles, so I'd have to be concerned about that. And I just don't want him as my middle infielder, even if he plays every day and has the same performance he's had in the past. That 230 is hard to make up for.
Better answer that. Sounds like the pimp phone. Hey, he closed his draft on round 23, which, if you take a look across, I think was one of the most fantastical picks of the draft here at the end, and that's Ryan Garco. Now, you take a look at this guy, you know, he started off slow and finished really strong. Now, his home run numbers weren't there. You know, a lot of us expected 25-plus home runs from him, but he ended with 90 RBI, still, you know, batted over 270. To me, you know, this is a guy that I think snuck up on a lot of people from the point that, you know, we didn't really see a lot, especially when he started the season. So when you take a look at a guy like Ryan Garco, how comfortable do you feel with picking this guy maybe earlier in the draft? Because if you take, again, Tony, this is a guy that started out with 224 in April, 232 in May, 265 in June. And then you see August and September, 292, 384. That's where he seemed to come on. Both months had 20 RBIs in each of those months. How does that play into effect now? Because he's a guy that ends the season well. And you hear this a lot from a lot of baseball analysis. And, you know, if he finishes the last couple months strong, you can come to expect that he's going to start the season well. What's your opinion on guys that finish the season strong like Garco did this year?
You know what, I agree with that assessment. And the thing with Garco to realize is it was the first time in his career that he had an everyday job, and he wasn't platooning or jumping in, on off days. It was his job out of spring training. He never had that before in the pros, and I think he did not adjust well in April and May. And then he came on like gangbusters at the end of the year, and it's funny because fantasy owners only remember the beginning of the season. I'm seeing this guy not even getting drafted in some drafts, and it's amazing to me. I think this guy absolutely lights it up. I've seen him play in the College World Series back then he was a catcher, and he absolutely can kill a ball, and I think he's going to have big numbers in a Cleveland offense that's going to be top-notch again this season like years past.
And we move over to Scott Swain. Scott Swain from Fantasy Baseball, one of the great analytical sites out there. I mean, Tony, this guy, a Harvard grad, comes up with some statistics and does some mathematical formulas that'll make your head spin. And you take a look at the team, and I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but Mock Draft Central's using his to really look at some of the projections they have. Is that correct?
That is correct, and Lenny Melnick's crying every day because he doesn't have enough home runs, according to the Stripper.
Well, that's because Lenny wants his statistics put up there, and he just